Good day. Testing out the sound. So far, it sounds okay. This one doesn't. This one seems like it has a lag. Okay. I'm really testing out where I should put the mic. How about now? I'm also seeing if it's picking up anything around me in terms of ambient sound. Okay, so, man, I said so much. I spoke for like 2 hours yesterday. And most of that can't be heard. I don't think I'm going to repeat myself, but I will definitely touch on those things because I usually do. I usually touch on the same things because they matter. They matter to me, and I'm also refining my ability to do this podcast, making sure how I need to set things up or whatnot. I'm on my second cup of coffee. I usually only have 2 cups of coffee in a day because I think that's like a lot of caffeine to last me for the whole day. But yeah. So I was thinking about what I had said about art and how I think about art a lot, and I do think about art a lot. I had brought up that art, I think everything is art. The center of Earth is art. But I had brought up that I think everything is art. And because everything wonderful, actually, everything. To me, everything is art. And if everybody is doing their art form, then they must be doing what they love or what's natural to them. And if everybody's doing what's natural to them and what they love to do, if everyone's doing their art form, wouldn't there just be so much harmony if no one was going against their own natural abilities? I find artistic expression to be not only healing, but not only healing to the person creating it, but also healing to the person observing it, but also, and how it contributes to our future and to our world, to our collective development. But it also, in my opinion, in my extremely opinionated self, art is like, it's like a superpower. So there's like these musical super beings, and they make their art is like this audible, harmonious sound. And with that sound coupled with, words or just even the inflections of the voice, it does things. It moves reality in some capacity. And to me, that is a superpower. How could it not be? It's something that maybe the skill has to be refined. Maybe the superpower has to be strengthened like any other muscle. But what it does on an unseen level and in the what can't necessarily be observed, which is like within somebody, what's being done in the invisible. It's how many words would it take to explain what's being done in the unseen? In the unseen, inside of somebody's vessel, it is causing something. Whether it's causing an emotional response, it's causing a healing because of the ability to connect with the message. So to me, just that's one example of an art form. And that art form is healing. It changes things in the physical reality. And in that case, it's reality changing. And if it's reality changing to me, that's like it's a superpower. And in my opinion, I think all art forms are that same way. They're superpowers, and they have the ability to make and cause changes in the physical reality and cause healing. They can also cause the destruction of the old, as in old ways of thought or old ways of perception, breaking through the barrier of a perception and introducing a new one that hadn't been thought of before. To me, that's innovation, right? So innovation, art, they go hand in hand. And that's why I say, like, art is our future. The innovation comes from art. Art is innovation. To me, they're all, it's all. I guess I had condensed going around in life, observing things. I had stated in my previous terrible sound of my first podcast that I've lived life on the edge. And that doesn't mean that I was necessarily causing destruction to myself, but just on the edge, the thrill of life and the ebbs, the flows, the changes, the constant changes of life. I guess could be like a roller coaster or whatever. But I've lived life that way, and living life that way, I have one of the main things besides being resourcefulness, or the ability to be resourceful and using the resources around in order to do a bunch of things for survival purposes, but also to create moments, to rescue, to help, to protect, or whatnot, beyond the survival stuff of, like, food and shelter and stuff. But not just resourcefulness. That's not the only thing that living life like that demands. It doesn't demand it, but boy, it's a lot harder to go about life in such a thrilling way without being resourceful. The inability to be resourceful really puts a damper on the ability to live life on the edge like that. To where in the moment is the only. Living in the moment is the only. There is no other, like, living life like that. You can't even look at the past. One, because you don't have time. But and you can't look to the future because it might not even exist. So there only is the moment and the present. That's it. So being resourceful is the only way, really, to do that. Because if you're only in the moment, because there is no past and there is no future, potentially, then you only have what is available to you within reach. So resourcefulness, yes. But the main thing that I was getting to is lightweight. To be lightweight. So even though resourcefulness is such a key component, also you can't be bogged down by, well, the act of, like, hoarding or collecting too much of something or being too heavy. And the analogy, a pretty good example. If you're hiking and you're hiking up in the wilderness and into the mountains, and you got a pack on, right? You can't carry a house. Now, a tent could be considered a house, but it's got to be very compact and lightweight, because you got to be able to still climb. So it can't be a house made out of bricks. It can't be a house made out of wood. It has to be a house made out of fabric and strings. best way is to be resourceful and just fabric only. Drape it over the sticks that are already there in the wilderness. An abundant supply, relying on the resources around in order to survive, but also to make moments, beautiful moments in the moment. But to be lightweight. If there's an animal that's chasing after you, you can't be too heavy or, oh gosh, I don't even have to go there, right? But if you're lightweight, you can move fast. You'll be able to climb a tree. And that's the analogy. But in life, it's the same way to be lightweight. Lightweight in thought. Lightweight in heart. It's so funny because it seems like it conflicts with being resourceful. So it's like, so then you have to make the resources count. And that's what I learned, right? Being as lightweight as possible. That's why I guess how I build things, how I create things really has to do with being resourceful and being lightweight as possible. So a lot of what I've created makes it to where I just push a couple buttons and that's it. Like I don't have to be bogged down by the weight of too much of anything. And it can be managed easily and by something that's itself lightweight. I think that's why also with my thought processes and when it came to going through the healing process, it's like confronting these thoughts that are damning, condemning. How does that serve me? And that's why I've always said that, like, remove what no longer serves us. Like, if it doesn't serve me to keep going, then what it's just extra weight, that might be actually stabbing me in the leg while I'm trying to hike. So, because that's the climb, right? If you're climbing a mountain, if you have something extra on your pack that's stabbing you, either remove it or move it. But don't let it keep stabbing me, because if it keeps stabbing me and then I start bleeding, then I'm going to attract a bunch of animals and then so it just makes the climb even harder. So release all of the things that are just too heavy, even in my mind, so that I can be lightweight, so I can be free movement. So that's how, I guess that's why I want to create like a one-stop shop, right? Because it's like my pack, right? And I want it to be as condensed to the essentials as possible, where it's lightweight, doesn't take up a lot of space, doesn't take up a lot of room. Then it leaves room for storage, and it leaves processing power open, which is really good. That sets one up for opportunity, to be able to grab hold of opportunity. It's a lot easier to see opportunity when I'm not trying to manage all of these things, like software programs, right? It's like, if I'm not trying to manage like a crap load of different software programs, and this goes with the mind as well, it's like, if I'm not trying to manage and keep up with all of these different software programs, these different applications, then I'm able to see other things. It leaves opportunity open for me to be able to observe other things. Hang on, I'm going to check the sound because I need to make sure that it's functioning. Hold on, I'm testing out the sound. So what I can see is that I had the mic too far away from my mouth. Hey. Okay. So anyway, this is actually my second podcast, but I'm refining it, right? Making sure that it's functioning the way that it should, and that I'm using the hardware the best way that I should be using the hardware. These are for the times when I'm just chilling, which I am just chilling, still drinking my coffee. I haven't decided how I'm going to conduct my day yet, because I need the caffeine to make sure that I stop yawning. But I was talking yesterday or last night about the fact that I had gone through life not on my own time, you know, it's on the time of others, and that was wonderful, and I learned a lot of things. But what I did learn is that I needed to figure out what I wanted to do with my time in my life. And I didn't want to have to wait until I was a grandparent to figure it out. Because I have been around so many people who were grandparents, and I've been around them since I was young, because they have so much wisdom. Right? They have so much wisdom. They've experienced so much that I could learn so much. Like, oh, I can totally avoid going down so many different pathways if I just gain wisdom from others who've already been down that road and can tell me what's down there. Like, oh, then I don't want to go that way. Oh, okay, I'll go a different way. But I gathered that by the time they figured out, you know, what really matters in life and what they wanted to do with their time, and by the time they had time for themselves to do the things that they wanted, they already, well, a lot of things. Not necessarily that they had regrets, but that they'd already used up so much of their energy to do other things for other people. And maybe not things that they agreed with. They did things for other people, but not necessarily for in a meaningful way. By the time that they realize that it's all about connection, relationship building, and making memories, by the time they realize that, they had already spent years basically programming their children, without realizing it, to be disconnected. So then they want connection with their children and their grandchildren, right? But their children couldn't hear them because they were already caught up in the cycle that had gone on before that, which is to run and run and run and keep going, and not acknowledge the moments, but to run after getting something, which we have this drive to do that anyway as human beings. But well, I'm glad that the sound works. We have a drive to do that as human beings naturally, and we're like competitive and stuff like that. But by the time they realized that they wanted to focus more on connection, they had already basically trained their own children to not value connection. But it was like a passive teaching. It wasn't something that was necessarily thought about. So, and I discovered this just by communicating to people that have lived a lot of life. And so then I wanted to make sure that, okay, I'm young, I'm learning that this is the pattern. Like all these different people I've talked to, it's like it comes down to connection and making memories and being in the moment. Okay, well, I already live life like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab life and make sure, as much as I can grab it, make sure that as the moments, the opportunities for moments are arising, that I'm seizing those. And, you know, making the moment beautiful, setting it up, you know. And I think doing that is actually romantic, right? Isn't it an act of being romantic to do that? To seize a moment and to make it special. And I don't mean like romantic to somebody who's a significant other. I mean just romantic in general about life. Generally speaking, for anyone. And so that's what I started doing with anyone that was around me. And this is, you know, before I had children. So I do the same thing with my children now because they're the only ones that are around me. But before I had children, I was around all, you know, all kinds of different people and stuff. And so I would seize the opportunity to make a moment special for whoever it was that was around me. Friend, acquaintance, whatever. Like, and make the moment special and memorable. And doing that made it memorable, and it stuck in my mind. It stuck in the minds of those who were present at the time. The other thing, I really focus on character development, and that I get to choose what kind of character I want to be. When a scary situation comes up, am I going to look around for the most courageous person and hide behind them? When a scary situation comes up, am I going to look around for the strongest person and go stand beside them? When a scary situation comes up, am I going to be the one that stands courageously, even though I may be standing alone? I end up being the one that others come and stand beside. I end up being the one that others come and stand behind. I end up becoming the one that others are looking around for to find the strongest in the room. Because that's what I chose. I chose to be that character. And then I got used to doing that. It's kind of lonely to choose that. It's really lonely to choose that. It's seizing the moment. And that moment becoming memorable. It's refining character. Making a new normal within my own self. And that new normal is not looking around, only looking within. So then, if I'm only looking within, then I'm becoming like this scientist that's looking to the inside and what's in there. It goes back to being lightweight, removing anything that's in there that doesn't serve me to reach my highest potential. Removing whatever is in there that doesn't serve me to become the character that I want to be. It doesn't matter to me how others are perceiving me. It matters how I am perceiving myself, because at the end of the day, I'm the one that's watching. I am the audience. And I am the character that's on the stage. That's why I laugh at my own jokes. I can't hide from the audience as long as I'm in front of the curtain, right? If the curtain is behind me, I'm in front of the audience, and I can't hide what I'm choosing. I am the audience. I can't hide from myself what I'm choosing. Am I choosing to stand and to be the strength, or am I not? You know, and to make that decision, a lot of times, it would make me tremble. My whole body would shake. And my voice, I couldn't even talk because it was like my throat would close up. Hard to breathe. Almost like there was no oxygen, kind of like fire and smoke eats all of the oxygen. And I would tremble. My whole body would get hot. I would even start sweating like I'm on fire. And that's what courage feels like. That's what I discovered it. After doing it so many times, I realized, what is this that happens within me every time that I do this? When a scary situation comes up and I decide to stand and to face it and not to look to anyone else around, because sometimes there isn't anyone, but to look around to see if there's anyone that I can stand next to or stand behind, stand beside, or hold on to. There was no one, only me. Sometimes there are, but why would I rely on anything other than my own self? It's the only thing I can control anyway. And after doing that, though, so many times, I'm like, there's a reaction happening to me. And the only thing I can describe it as is it feels like I'm on fire because I can't breathe. And I'm sweating. And my whole body is shaking. What does that mean? And I realized after I asked myself that it's courage. Having courage feels like standing in fire, walking in fire, existing in fire. And then I started to, it became my new normal. And I started to crave to do it. Like, meh. It's been a long time since I've felt like I'm on fire. I wonder if there's a situation that I can't see that I need to seize to make sure that I still have this ability to be courageous. But I guess it was me refining my own character, and I refine it with fire. So courage isn't like fearlessness. Courage is doing that anyway, in the face of fear. What I realized was that burning feeling was the fear being scorched. It was the fear that was attached to me like parasites being disintegrated. That's why it felt like that. So I myself was not being disintegrated. I myself was not being scorched. But the parasites of fear that were on me or within me that convinced me that I was the fear. It's like a parasite attaching itself to me and telling me, I am you. Oh, you shouldn't do that. Oh, you shouldn't go there. Oh no. What will happen if, but it's really the parasite, because the parasite is fear, but the parasite also is afraid to die. So it's afraid for the host to die. So it'll try to negate by using its own consciousness and self-preservation to try to convince the host, which is me, to not do things and not go there so that its host won't die. So when I would do it anyway, go against that voice, realizing, is that voice me telling me instinctually to not do that? Or is that the voice of something else? And so then I would not listen to it. I would do it anyway. I would stand and face these scary situations. And I would feel like I'm on fire. But I feel like I'm on fire, but I'm not dying. But something on me is. Something within me is dying. And I wonder, when the throat closes up like that, and I'm thinking about the energy point, which the energy point of the throat is for truth to come out. And it being so restricted to where I couldn't breathe and I couldn't talk. Is that where the parasite lives? Does it wrap itself around my throat? And it's very close to my ears, speaking things to me, convincing me that I am it, that those things that it's speaking to me are my own thoughts. So I made myself a new normal. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. When I did that for myself, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, I stopped having the mentality of a victim. I started having the mentality of shaping my own character and choosing to seize opportunities for my character to flex itself, I guess. I made that the new normal, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because I said that to myself, Sadie, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I think I was in like the 8th or 9th grade when I told myself that. And I never stopped telling myself that. And doing that made it to where having courage then was uncomfortable. And I was like, I'm going to get comfortable with this. And I'm not sorry that I did that. Because now I'm able to see things in reality and in life a lot differently. I'm able to see from a different perspective. To me, it's a lot of clarity. And I like that. I don't want to go on and on. But because my cup of coffee is done now. So let me make sure that this is all working. Let's see. This is my test run. Make sure that the sound is not choppy like my other one from last night. Okay. All right. Thank you for listening. I don't have some kind of pattern of when I'm going to be doing podcasts. I just do them when I feel so inclined. But until next time, thank you so much, and may peace be with you.